Welcome to The Peak, where becoming your best self is our goal. I'm Mike Mittman, and on this week's episode, a community resource connecting nonprofits and business communities. How St. Luke's provides individualized care for their patients and family members, and a breathtaking tour of a Saucon Valley kitchen. All that and more coming up on The Peak. The Allentown Farmers Market's mission is to bring wholesome, fresh foods from the farm to your family dinner table. Check it out.
With over 50 local merchants and one of the oldest traditions in the Lehigh Valley, the Allentown Farmers Market is serving up fresh foods all year round. Let's go check it out. Located at 17th and True Streets in Allentown Fairgrounds, this indoor market is famous for items like fresh fruit, vegetables, seafood, meats, and a ton of different foods that are prepared fresh each week for customers. Other stores sell purses, jewelry, health supplements, even vacuums and accessories. This market has been around for so long that locals say it's basically the same as when it started. The food offerings here can suit a number of taste buds, from Polish to Italian to Vietnamese. And there is plenty of pork and sauerkraut available from the Amish, Mennonite, and other food vendors to reaffirm the market's Pennsylvania German roots. Stop in between Thursday to Saturday so you don't miss out on these must-try treats. Whether you're shopping for produce, home goods, or something sweet, you can find just about anything here at the Allentown Farmers Market. I'm Katie, and that was a peek at the Valley.
I've been going to the Allentown Farmers Market for as long as I can remember, and it's always been one of my favorite places to shop. Up next, how the Volunteer Center connects volunteers to nonprofit organizations.
The Volunteer Center, that puts a big smile on my face.
Oh, the Volunteer Center is my favorite place.
I love how the Volunteer Center consistently shows up and just says, let's do this.
We are at the core of connecting the community. So volunteers come to us looking to connect, and nonprofits are looking for us to help source those volunteers. Particularly even in the pandemic, it became even more apparent the needs and how to get creative and how to have different outreach. And so we've really revamped how we reach out to volunteers, how we get them together with the nonprofits and really be able to help fill those needs.
The volunteers are a huge part of the work that Second Harvest does. And when I first started my position and I knew I needed volunteers in the height of COVID, I knew exactly where to go.
When COVID first hit the Lehigh Valley, nonprofit organizations were really scrambling, and the Volunteer Center were able to think strategically and clearly in a moment of crisis, and that really made the difference. And I really don't believe that the Lehigh Valley nonprofit sector would have survived this current crisis had it not been for the collaborative spirit and consistency of the Volunteer Center.
In the height of COVID, we were blessed. We were able to partner with the Volunteer Center, and we really wanted to focus on what people needed in the moment. When we had identified our program, which was going to be PPE products, I teamed up with Karen and her team, and she knew exactly what questions to ask the organizations in the area. She knew exactly who to contact and what resources we needed to be able to get the most product out in the most efficient way. We would not have been able to distribute what we distributed during the height of COVID if we did not have the help and support from the Volunteer Center.
Supporting the Volunteer Center has a lot of benefits. I can tell you my own story. The reason that our organization at Valley National Financial Advisors started supporting and working with the Volunteer Center was we really didn't want to decide on one nonprofit because we have such a diverse group of people that work in our organization. When I found out about the Volunteer Center, I realized that we could touch all these different areas, all these different causes, and everyone at our work could really get that good feeling of being involved in the areas where they wanted to be involved, but really through one magical place.
I think it's important to support the Volunteer Center because they are the backbone in what we do as nonprofit organizations.
When you support the Volunteer Center, you're supporting the community. Everything that we do, every day when we wake up, we think about what can we do better to support the nonprofits. We look at ourselves kind of as a pass-through for the work that we do is to benefit over 300 nonprofits here in our community.
With your support of the Volunteer Center, you're not just supporting one organization, you are really strengthening the entire Lehigh Valley.
The Lehigh Valley community is always there to help and support each other. Coming up, how St. Luke's is providing support to patients and their families. Stay tuned. This is The Peak. The interventional radiology team at St. Luke's provides more than just quality care. They provide support when families need it most.
Bill was the love of my life, still is, in my heart forever. January 29th, he passed. I met Bill back in 1992, and we just started talking, and right then and there, in my mind, I said, one day I'm going to marry him. It really was basically love at first sight. I mean, he just was everything to me. Bill blames me for getting diabetes. He said that when he met me, that's when he did develop diabetes, and I said, that's because I was so sweet. That's why you got the diabetes. He just started to have problems back in 2017 with his stomach. He had a liver biopsy, and that came out where there was some scarring, and it just started to accelerate.
When I first met Bill, he had come to the hospital to have a procedure done called a paracentesis, and that's to remove fluid from the abdomen. And the reason why he had that was because of a liver condition called NASH, which is non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, which is sort of on the severe spectrum of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which many of us actually have and we have no idea. So unfortunately, the liver becomes damaged as a result, and he had liver problems, which led to the fluid, which led then to him coming to us to have the fluid drained.
I had noticed that his stomach, when he was brushing his teeth, just had a different take on it, almost like if you're pregnant. And we had an appointment with one doctor, and I said, his stomach is starting to look cirrhotic to me. And they said, we need to set up an ultrasound. Well, Bill wound up getting rushed to the hospital, and they did an ultrasound in the ER, saw that there was ascites, which is the fluid, which happens from cirrhosis, and they drained him. And that's then how we met our IR team, because he was going at that point every 2 weeks, and then within like a month, we had to start going every week.
With Bill and Michelle, they got to a point, obviously he was dealing with something very serious, and he would come pretty much weekly to our department for this procedure. And we usually had the same crew here, an amazing staff who basically all centered around Bill and Michelle. And during the procedure, we would talk, we would joke, we would laugh, we would make fun of each other, we would cry. And so really the procedure or the visit actually ended up not even being as much about the procedure, but actually just hanging out to the point where we became family. And I think that was tremendously valuable for them, just from the emotional support issue and just to help inject something positive into his life and her life.
They truly became family to us. They took a horrible situation that we looked forward to going to. When they knew Bill was having a bad time, Michelle would go over and just put her arms around him. Megan would hug me if I needed a hug. They just knew instinctively, like, they need our hugs. I couldn't have done any of that without them, because they truly cared. They truly cared.
Joining me today is Dr. Ellen Redstone, the Section Chief of Interventional Radiology at St. Luke's. Thanks for being here, Dr. Redstone.
Nice to be here.
What is interventional radiology? What exactly do you do, and how is it different than traditional radiology, let's call it?
Well, interventional radiology used to be a subspecialty of radiology, All of the doctors that are interventional radiologists are board certified in diagnostic radiology because image interpretation is very important to our specialty. So what we do is we use image guidance to perform minimally invasive procedures.
What would be an example of a condition or a disease or a situation that would prompt the need to see an interventional radiologist?
Well, that is a question that I could take a long time to answer because we do such a wide variety of different procedures for patients. You know, if you were an outpatient, you might come in to have a biopsy of a lymph node, or if there was a mass or something like that, you might come in for tissue sampling. So that would be an example of how we could aid in diagnosis. Patients that need cancer treatments or need special infusions of special medications and need long-term catheters might come in and have a port placed for chemotherapy.
I would imagine that these cases can often get complex. How important has the innovation and the technology advancements in this field been in helping you do your job well as patient outcomes?
Tremendously important. I've been doing this since I finished my training in 1998. So I've seen a tremendous amount of innovation and growth. I mean, even just from the imaging equipment alone, we went from what we would call an analog film, similar to a normal regular camera where you would take a picture and get the film developed, all the way to what we have now, which is completely digital. And then just the development of different devices, different procedures. I mean, it is a very technologically heavy field.
It really is incredible to see those advancements and to see how they are, positively impacting patients. But often interventional radiology is either something people don't know exists or sounds really scary. What do you want people to know about the field if they're referred to an interventional radiologist or have to get a study done by you or a member of the team?
I think that it may sound scary because they don't know what it is, but in reality, our specialty helps make their lives better because we do procedures that are surgical alternatives. So 30 years ago, a lot of the things we do right now through a tiny needle stick were done by an operation. So, sometimes patients have a complication of an operation. They might have a bleed or they have an infection. They used to go back to the operating room to have that taken care of. Now we can do it by making a small needle puncture under image guidance and put a drain into that abscess, or go into the artery and put a little coil into that artery that's bleeding and get it to stop without having to put them through another operation. It's just lower complications because the more times you operate on somebody, if they're sick, the harder it is for them to get better. So the less you do and the less invasive you are, the better it is for healing.
So it's really a good thing if you hear you need an interventional radiologist study.
So they shouldn't be afraid of us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Redstone, for explaining interventional radiology to us a little bit better and certainly making it something patients can feel good about so that they can find the best care and get the best solutions and the best outcomes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. You're watching The Peak.
Lehigh Valley Reads is a collaborative program bringing awareness to the importance of reading and diverse representation in books. Let's hear Carmen's story.
My name is Carmen Bell, and I am the Director of Healthy Aging for United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley. I was born and raised in New York. Born in Brooklyn, and then we moved to Queens. And I remember asking my mother, where did all the other people go? Because we came from a very mixed neighborhood to one that was not so mixed. Reading was my number one favorite thing to do. I remember my mom would say to me, you have to go outside, and get some air and run around. So I'd go outside and sit on the steps and read my book. The time that I was growing up in the 60s, there were lots of representations of Black people in movies and in other media that was not flattering. It's almost like a message is being sent that says, you don't count, you're not important, what you do doesn't matter. I think it's probably the reason why, as I got older, I concentrated a lot on historical novels, biographies, things that were true. And there are books that I read to my grandchildren now that I'm particularly interested in. The Hair Love is one that I particularly like. I read to my granddaughter. That just talks about embracing who you are and just being happy with who you are, and that's a beautiful place to be. I think it's important for them to see themselves represented in books and in the media. So they have an understanding that they are part of this community, they are part of this society, and they have an important place there. And I think it gives you possibility.
Historic Bethlehem Museums and Sites provides programs that take a deeper look into our beautiful Lehigh Valley. Check it out.
I'm Tina Hasselbush, and I am the owner of Socialty Marketing and PR, and I'm also really very excited to be showing off our new kitchen for Historic Bethlehem Museum and Sites. We've lived in this house for 8 years. We've been in the Saucon Valley now for over 20, but when we bought this house, we just loved how it felt like a cottage. It's very cozy, the rooms are cozy, and we just thought it would be a great place to spend a lot more time with our family. We have 4 children, so we have a lot of space here, and we love how close we are to Bethlehem, so we sort of have a little bit of both worlds. We can head into the city if we want, or Allentown or Easton, but then it's nice and quiet. We're close to the rail trail, so we really love the house. The kitchen was part of our house that we always wanted to update, but we thought, well, maybe we could just make a little tweak here or a little tweak there. And then we decided, no, it was time to really pull the trigger and start to update. And so this was kind of the beginning, and we've been working through the rest of the house slowly. The kitchen that we had originally in the home was a little boxy, and so it felt sort of cut off. We have a large room that encompasses our family room as well with it, so we wanted it to feel very cohesive. We went with the Jarrett design, and we worked so closely with them, and they were amazing through every single step of the process. They created a design for us that felt much more open, much more streamlined, so that when you came in from whatever door, it felt very welcoming. And then we chose the white cabinetry because we thought that that was really timeless. I didn't ever want it to feel too perfect, that people couldn't come in and feel comfortable and just enjoy the space. So something else that we decided to do was choose a soapstone countertop. And we also chose to do a Franklin edge. It just adds a smidge of kind of country, just a little bit to tone it down again, just so that it's not super, super polished looking. So the rest of the design process, I think it is really an important piece when you're redoing an area in your house, that you feel like everything else flows together. And I know what I like, but I don't know how to do it myself. So that's when Peggy Pook, Margaret Pook, came in, interior designer extraordinaire. She's amazing. And she really worked with me to make sure that everything felt right and felt homey for us. What I love about this house is that the kitchen really is truly the heart of the home. I mean, we spend almost all of our time together as a family here in this kitchen. So I think that between Jarrett and Peggy, we were really successful in bringing all of that together. When I first moved to the area, I actually got to know about Historic Bethlehem Museum and Sites through the house tour, not kidding. A friend of mine actually had her home on the tour years ago, and I thought it was brilliant and beautiful, and we toured some of the other homes. So that was sort of my first intro actually to Historic Bethlehem. I've gotten to know them so much more, knowing the work that they do, really appreciating how they are preserving the history of Bethlehem, which is truly, honestly, my favorite town. Thank you so much for coming. I really have enjoyed having you here. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing my kitchen, all of the beautiful work that we've done here. And I hope that maybe you get some ideas and some, inspiration for your own kitchen at home.
What an impressive kitchen, Tina. I'll be over for dinner sometime soon. I'm Mike Mittman. Thanks for watching. And to learn more about anything from today's show, go to our website at thepeaktv.com. And remember, every day is an opportunity to be your best self. This is The Peak. The interventional, easy for me to say. He's right on top of you. The interventional radiology. Ah.
Portions of this program were paid for by St. Luke's University Health Network.
The Peak TV is a production of ASR Media.
Like what you saw? Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another video.
To see more of the Peak TV, check out our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and catch us on WFMZ Channel 69.